How to Always Feel Empowered, an Alternative to Rebellion, a video essay by the White Rabbit. I have never really been a rebel, at least never in the traditional sense. I am someone that uses discernment, and whether I conform to norms or not, it's going to be because I consciously deem that the best. But whether I have conformed or rebelled, I have always seen rebellion as flawed. I perhaps had a short phase of it, but it didn't last because it wasn't working. If you also find yourself disempowered by rebellion, I have something to tell you. When we feel oppressed or antagonized by an external force, such as a person, we feel disempowered. Perpetrators use power in abusive ways, taking it away from others, because they themselves don't have a sustainable source to get it from. Naturally, we feel the need to defend ourselves. The thought that comes to our mind when wanting to empower ourselves is something like, "I won't let you oppress me." This thought alone is perfectly fine. It's an empowering thought. The problem arises when we start acting out in rebellion. You see, if we truly want to escape a disempowered situation, we need to sometimes see ourselves from the oppressor's perspective. And when you do, you'll realize that a person passionately rebelling is one that loudly and proudly admits they have no power. This is a feedback loop for the oppressors. By your loud and proud words and actions declaring that you'll fight back, they feel more enabled to oppress you, not threatened. Rebelling is like writing, "You have power over me," and "you threaten me" on your forehead and proudly showing it off to everyone, including your adversary. That, in my eyes, is worse than walking around powerless without it written on your forehead. Of course, this can be a pitfall for those who don't know of an alternative. They may think, if rebellion is worse, then I should just conform and surrender. This is faulty, because a basic level of empowerment is a human need, so if you don't fight back, you'll just make yourself sick. So what's the alternative? How do you actually shake your oppressor? How do you make them feel threatened? The answer is detachment. The best way to shake off a parasite trying to get a grip on you to leech is to not care about it at all, to be indifferent or simply unthreatened, unshaken by their lowly attempts to bait you into a win-lose dynamic. Insecure fear is the #1 invitation to perpetrators. Apathy or indifference is repellent against these people. And while indifference too can become a method of abuse on innocent people, so I'll advise you to not take this out of context. Our target here is not innocent. So, how do you stop caring? How do you suddenly switch from victimhood and powerlessness to a grounded presence anchored in true empowerment? The first step is to investigate why you even were a rebel in the first place. You'd be surprised how many people aren't actually in it for empowerment. Many people rebel to get attention. And before you ask, wanting attention for its own sake is bad, because needing attention is normally a bridge between you and getting what you actually need. A normal person seeks attention to seek help or some other thing they need. A person in an abnormal state seeks attention for its own sake, which is wrong because you are taking people's most valuable currency, their attention, greedily in exchange for nothing. An attention seeker will lose the attention if they get help, so they keep themselves in a constant state of suffering on purpose, so as to keep getting attention. Since rebellion is loud and proud, it is a convenient behavior for attention seekers. If you have concluded that you are a rebel not for attention, but for actual empowerment, you can graduate to the next question. Are you attached to being a victim or underdog? Is it something you gain indirect benefits from? Because if you chronically experience being oppressed or victimized, it most probably is. And you need to admit and face that truth. In order to achieve the detachment you need for empowerment, you need to decide for yourself, not because I or anyone told you, but because you want to, that whatever benefits you gain from victimhood is not worth taking the detriments for. Meaning, you need to decide that even if victimhood benefited you on some level, the detriments of it are heavier than the benefits. It's an unworthy bargain. If you have come to terms with yourself, that you want empowerment, not attention, and that you want empowerment more than whatever benefits you gain from disempowerment, there is one more thing you need to understand here. You remember how I said that perpetrators abuse power, taking it from others because they can't sustainably get it? Well, here you need to understand that people have boundaries. People are not open treasure chests anyone can just take from. If someone takes from you, you had to permit them to do that. And here is where we need to talk about your external versus internal experience. When a perpetrator hurts you or oppresses you, there is an external element, and the internal that happens in you mentally. Someone could talk down to you, and that will probably hurt. But when you decide to assign the meaning to that experience, that you are powerless and victimized, you have permitted them to take your power and opt into their win-lose dynamic with you. Someone oppressing or hurting you doesn't have to mean you are powerless or that you are a victim and that they are a perpetrator. Don't even give them the satisfaction of calling them that. The truth is, they may have decided to flood you with baits, but you decided to bite. And that's where the power lies that no one can take from you. The power of biting or not biting the bait is always yours. And when you call yourself entirely powerless, you are trying to bypass this truth because it's the easy thing to do. It takes a humble person to admit they are not all powerful. But did you know that it also takes a humble person to admit that they do have power? With that, you can see here that attributing too much power to someone else is also a case of lacking humility. You need humility to admit you have power, and you need humility to admit that they are not as powerful in truth as you painted them to be. And at this point, you reach the grounded and anchored state of empowerment. Notice that empowerment is not loud, and it is certainly not proud. Empowerment is humble. It has no need to prove anything or perform fake confidence. Being empowered means you humbly use the power that is rightfully yours, confidently because you know it's the right thing to do, without giving it away to adversaries or attributing more to someone else than is truthfully theirs. Summary 1. Self-awareness. Is my true goal of rebellion empowerment, or is it actually something else, like attention-seeking? 2. Shadow work. If my true goal is empowerment, why do I keep myself disempowered? What unconscious or unadmitted benefits do I gain from disempowerment? Is the bargain I'm making truly worth it? 3. Humility. If the bargain I was making isn't worth it, can I trade my pride for humility and see that I was always empowered and gave my power away by choice? 4. Detachment. If I know I always have power, in what meaning I assign to my experiences, can I see the perpetrators for what they truly are, incompatible to me because I am not a victim? And can I treat them accordingly? Can I reject their baits with dignity and not play the game by the rules of my enemy, but my own? Thank you for watching.